What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the end of the week where me and Robbie count down our top 10 favorite comics of the week. And like the thumbnail suggests, I think this video is cursed. Right after we recorded, Robbie realized he didn't have the right microphone plugged in, so his audio is going to be jacked throughout this whole video. And then a day later, I deleted my footage, my video, and my audio, and I'm now recording this in the future, interacting with a Robbie that was interacting with an old version of Gem. We're going to try to make it work. Let me introduce my co-host, Rockin Robbie Billups.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Super excited to be here in Gem. Do you have the time to listen to me whine?
That's right, man. Rocking that Green Day Dookie shirt. Now, this video will contain full-on spoilers for this week's comics, as always. And before we jump into the top 10, Robbie, kick them off with our picks of the week.
Oh, I will be honored to take part of the honors. The weakest book of the week for me was Amazing Spider-Man 78 point bullshit. Like, what is going on again? This isn't a Nick Spencer thing. This is a Marvel editorial problem. You're giving us a new Spider-Man run. A lot of us didn't like Spencer's run. Some of us did. That's fine. Some people are digging this run. Some people aren't. But you give us these meaningless point whatever issues. Point BEY for Beyond. Bruh, it's so stupid. It's a one-shot for the Daughters of the Dragon. It's slightly tied in because they work for the Beyond Corporation and they got Spider-Man in there at first. First of all, it's just a terribly structured comic, man. It has no stakes. It shows you that they make it through whatever trial and tribulation they're going to go through before they actually go through it. This is Marvel trying to take your money. I'm done. I'm breaking up with Spider-Man.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. There is easily no weaker book than this Amazing Spider-Man.Bay. Everything that I disliked from the ongoing run, which is now 3 issues deep, all in one book. Conveniently, it's not a Spider-Man book. He's barely in it. One panel on the front page, maybe. And it's all about Misty Knight and Colleen. It's terrible. Not worth it. All right, guys, now kicking off my number 10. It's funny, like, future me is like, why did past me even put this on the list? But I went with Batman issue 117, The End of Fear State, and really for Jorge Jimenez's art and the fact that I didn't have enough strong titles to really make a top 10 here. So The End of Fear State, we just get an ending. Everything is going to be fine. We're not going to lead into the future state. That's an alternate multiverse within the Omniverse. But yeah, the anticlimactic conclusion of Scarecrow and the taking down of the Magistrate and Miracle Molly almost going bad and Breaking Bad, if you will. But Bruce Wayne decowls, shows her what's happening around Gotham and that everything is going to be okay. And now that's the end, and we're going to get into Joshua Williamson's run on Batman. You know, I didn't hate it. It just didn't have a strong ending.
Yeah, I'm excited for Josh Williamson to take over this book. I think Tynan's run's been decent, but this Fear State stuff, it was just such an anticlimactic ending. I didn't really like it. Like, this was built up with the promise of being this really big, epic Scarecrow story that could have really been like his definitive moment in comics, and you know what? Womp, womp, womp. Just dudded it out. That plane didn't hit the landing at all. It just, like, fell in the ocean somewhere or something. Like, I'm like looking for it. I'm like, where's the plane landing ending of Fear State? Doesn't matter. My number 10, Eat the Rich, number 4. I'm digging this series. I wasn't really down on it at first, but as it's progressed, as the story is becoming a little bit more solidified, I'm finding myself a little bit more compelled by it, right? There weren't a whole lot of banging books this week. There are some good ones. We'll get to those, but Eat the Rich makes it in at number 10. It's an interesting enough concept. It's about this woman. She's dating this dude who's in a super rich family. She gets invited into the family. Turns out they gotta eat people. They got like their servants like sign these contracts. We'll work for you for so many years, and then when we retire, you get to eat us, like a literal roast, right? But once they start eating these people, they have to. They can't leave because they're kind of like addicted to it. They have to feed only on human flesh. Interesting enough concept. Tweaking that around with some interesting commentary. I like it. Solid artwork. It's decent enough to eke in at number 10 on a smaller week.
I totally missed that Eat the Rich came out. I'm reading the series. I'm really digging it. I didn't read this issue, but I'm going to have to get caught up. My number 9, I went with Robin's issue 1. Now, I know, Robbie, you didn't really like it. I kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't a chore to read. It wasn't dialogue heavy and boring. The story wasn't the best, but yeah, you have all the Robins on this mission in the beginning, and then they take it back to the house and they're having cereal, kind of talking about was becoming Robin a good idea or not for them. And I like the kind of differences in personalities that we got here. It really solidifies Damian Wayne as my favorite Robin. I agree with him. He's the only one that really deserves to be Robin. He was born to be Robin and born to take on the Batman cowl after Bruce Wayne passes away. So I did like that kind of family interaction. And then you got a whodunit murder of some guy I don't even care about at the end. But enough to keep me reading for issue 2.
So this whole first issue for me is basically the Robins deciding to have this very long, deserved sit-down meeting where they're talking to each other about, hey, we were all Robin. Wasn't this like the most terrible tragedy that's ever befallen in our lives? Yo, all these people, all these punks chose to be Robin. You gotta be freaking out of your mind. The new character they're introducing, the first Robin or whatever, decent enough of a concept, but man, really? You're right. This book proved nothing, but Damian's the only one that deserves Robin, because everybody else is whining about being Robin, and Damian's like, yo, where's my Cocoa Puffs? My number 9 is going to be Vampirella, the holiday special from Dynamite Entertainment. Yo, I like this. I'm a sucker for a nice one-shot holiday theme type thing, and usually what they do is they take Christmas Carol and do their own version, like Spider-Man has to come up against the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, right? Does the Vampirella holiday special do that? Yeah, but it does it in a very interesting way. There's these like monster hunters that come out every holiday season. They hunt vampires and werewolf and Frankenstein monsters and things like that, right? And so then this holiday season, they're after Vampirella. So you just got to go up against these 3 different hunters from different eras. It was fun. It didn't take itself too seriously. At first, it seemed like it was going to be very cluttered and clunky and overly verbose, but it actually evened out. I like the artwork, and it's got 2 backup stories I thought was pretty solid. Vampy for holiday season. Come on, she's worth it.
Big shout out to Dynamite. I'm actually doing a live claim sale with Nick Barucci on this channel on Black Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. He's got some great books lined up. I've got some dope stuff as well, so make sure to tune into that. But for my number 8, I went with King Spawn issue 4. I'm just digging everything that Todd McFarlane's doing with the Spawn universe right now. Amazing artwork, dark and gritty, high stakes, a brutal beatdown between Spawn and Billy Kincaid, where he literally beats him to a bloody pulp, to oblivion. I can't talk today. It's already the cursed video. And then you have this introduction of the Oracle, the right hand to Mother Nature, and kind of explaining Mother Nature's role in this war between God, the devil, heaven and hell for human souls, and Mother Nature kind of getting tired of being the battleground for this war. Really digging King Spawn right now. Everything Spawn, really.
Yeah, I'm digging the Spawn books right now, especially King Spawn. I think it's actually probably becoming my favorite. We'll see where Gunslinger goes, but $2.99, cardstock cover, dynamic artwork, and an ongoing story and an unfolding mysterious narrative. Marvel, DC, just chirps, just crickets. Just crickets. They're not responding. Todd's calling you out again and again and again. My number 8, Power Rangers number 13. This is the second part of the Eltarian War. I'm freaking loving it. I feel like this book kind of lagged down a little bit, both this and Mighty Morphin, but now we have ramped it right back up. I really believe that as far as Power Ranger fans are concerned, the Eltarian War is going to be one of those big, significant moments in the expansion of this mythology. We got Zordon's people now invading Earth. The Power Rangers, the only people there. Zordon's presumably dead, and this is now the official crossover. Power Rangers is crossing over with Mighty Morphin. You got to read both of them. The Omega Rangers get involved in the conflict this time. Yo, big, giant revelations about Power Rangers lore that have never even been thought about. I love it. Dynamic, and one of the best superhero books I've read this week.
Yeah, I ended up dropping the Power Rangers and Mighty Morphin titles. It's funny that where they are now is kind of where they were when I dropped it, but it's, I guess, nice to see that they're getting to a climax here with that big war. Moving on to my number 7, I went with Moon Knight issue 5. Moon Knight has been a great series so far. The artwork's amazing. They do a dark, gritty take, obviously, and that's what you want with a Moon Knight comic. And then you get the other side, Moon Knight in the suit, talking to his therapist in flashbacks and how he's interacting with his employee here. We get this new villain kind of set up, the Zodiac, which is interesting because now we're getting kind of a multi-arc story, whereas he's had some great kind of one-shots, one-and-done throughout this series. But I'm really digging Moon Knight.
Yeah, Moon Knight's a little bit higher on my list, so I'll talk about it when we get there. But my number 7 is Elvira meets Vincent Price, issue number 3. I'm loving this book. It's Elvira meeting Vincent Price. And the reason why she has to meet the ghost of Vincent Price is because there's this long lost film of his, right? That they have to find before anybody else because it's the key to unlocking this like ancient Egyptian god to come and take over the world. Bruh, this book doesn't take itself too seriously. It's tongue-in-cheek, but it's fun. If you're a fan of Elvira, if you're a fan of like old school horror movies, especially the more comedic, adventurous ones like the Abbott and Costello stuff or whatnot, you definitely got to check out this book, man. It really respects the legacy of Vincent Price and Elvira and horror films in general. This book's super fun, man.
Not reading the Elvira book, but moving on to my number 6, I went with Kang the Conqueror, issue 4. Robbie, I know you gave this one up. You dropped this one. I really like it. I like showing this Kang love interest and him doing what Kang Prime told him not to do and why that was a bad thing and why he should have listened. It looks like he's going to correct himself a little bit here at the end. I think he ends up killing that love interest who is kind of seemingly her soul is existing in a different woman throughout each of these eras that he's in. I like the art style. I like the storytelling. It's pretty deep for a Kang book.
Unfortunately, I can't give you my thoughts, Jim, because I stopped reading this book. You know, I know who Kang is. I feel like this is more set up for people that don't really know a lot about Kang or the timeline or the lore. And so it's really cool that they got something out there that's getting people excited about this MCU villain that's about to be showing up. But for me, you know, been there, done that. I'm wanting something different, something more unique. And you said it, Kang love interest. Never mind. I'm good. I'm out of it. For my number 6, I'm going Not All Robots, issue number 4, the penultimate issue of this amazing book from AWA Upshot, written by Mark Russell, artwork by Mike Deodato Jr. I'm loving it, right? So it's about a robot revolution, but not in any kind of cliche way that we've already seen. Basically, humanity has proven to ourselves that we can't take care of each other. We can't take care of ourselves even, right? So we wind up creating this whole class of robot workers that each household has one. That robot goes out and does the work to provide for the family and comes home and like is really disgruntled and just upset and like, yo, I've had to deal with all this aggravation at work. How dare you put me through this? And now they are being replaced by robots that look more like men, right? More like humans, more like women. Like, and it's interesting because they're putting them through like sensitivity training. And now the real robot revolution is happening. This book hits a climatic point here that I was not expecting until the final issue. Some big shit happens. I'm loving it. This is a really interesting take on a very classic and cliche science fiction trope, but doing it in a really interesting, kind of fresh, and very profound type way.
You know, I'm not reading that Not All Robots, but sounds pretty interesting. Midway through the list, coming in at number 5, I went with Darkhold Wasp issue 1. Now, I don't really like the Darkhold as an event. I mean, they had an alpha book, and now there's all these one-shots. What happened when Iron Man, when Blade, when Wasp looked into the Darkhold? You're not supposed to read from it. So now we're getting all these like one-shot horror-inspired comics, which are really dark and really deep. Like Iron Man was like the more so origin of Iron Man. The Wasp one has to do with her feeling inferior around Hank Pym. He's never got time for her. He's always working on something. And that one issue where he slaps her back in the day. In this version, she loses it and she kills him and stabs him to death with a broken piece of glass. So definitely like the horror elements here. They're really fun, kind of what if takes on these characters.
Yeah, I've actually been having fun with these Darkhold one-shots. Like, do I like the actual premise of the Darkhold quote-unquote event? Not really, but these one-shots have been fun. Like you said, horror-influenced one-shots based like what-if tales, right? We have Blade, but he's the king of the vampires now. We have Iron Man in this very David Cronenberg body horror type thing. Now we got Wasp in this really, like, slasher-driven type story, like a revenge slasher film. I really liked it. I thought it was cool. I could feel it, like, what was going to happen, but I love those kind of stories where you're like, oh, she's about to go freaking crazy and kill Hank Pym. And then she does it, and you're like, yeah, I'm not really surprised, but that's exactly what the story deserved and exactly what I wanted. Speaking of what I wanted, number 5, Moon Knight, issue number 5. I think this is Marvel's best title of 2021. Seriously, this is an amazing book with really great, vibrant, colorful artwork that's super dynamic. I love the flow of this, and each issue is telling a self-contained story in an overarching narrative. I think that's really profound by 2021 standard, but the character Moon Knight's being handled very well. He's a badass. He's capable. The new villain introduced is awesome, but I also really like the nuance of the character moments. His conversation with his therapist, what she starts uncovering about why he doesn't want, or why he wants to wear a mask, and getting deep into that character. And I think that this was a super solid book. This has been a super solid run. Jed MacKay, he could be making a name for himself over at Marvel Comics right now.
Yeah, man, Moon Knight has been a solid run so far. My number 4, I went with Primordial, issue number 3 by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino, joined by Dave Stewart. Man, Jeff Lemire is a great writer. He's a good artist too, but he really lets Andrea Sorrentino lead this book with the artwork. We're getting the perspective from Laika, the cosmic Soviet dog, what happened during the space race. We were told that these animals were killed, but really they're on some type of other dimensional plane. We haven't really got the explanation yet, and that mystery is what really keeps me intrigued. But Laika seemingly able to telepathically speak to the chimps and kind of figuring out that they're not really home. Home is on Earth. They're in this other place. There's these other things that brought us here. What other things? We don't know, but I'm damn sure going to stick around to find out.
Yeah, man, I'm loving this book. It's a little bit higher on my list, but for my number 4, I'm going Nice House on the Lake, issue number 6. It's really bumming me out that this book's going to be missing for 5 months until it continues, but what a way to leave us. A lot of explanation, a lot of revelations about what's actually going on. We get into the nature of Walter. We get into the nature of why they are shunted away off into this nice house on the lake during the end of the world. We understand why Walter was asking these questions, and we get introduced, or reintroduced, I should say, to a new-ish character. I'm loving this book. Great character work. I love the way everything starts coming together, and they lay it all right out into a big revelation, and then they're going to leave you hanging for 5 months. But I'm not really that bothered by it, because I'll be waiting. I'll wait for you, Nice House on the Lake. I'll always be here. Imagine I'm holding a boombox atop my head, like Say Anything, whatever.
Nice House is way higher on my list, so let me jump into my number 3, which is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. We're on issue 5, I believe. I'm really digging this story. I love the narration from this character that's riding along with Supergirl throughout the cosmos, trying to find the killer of her family, who's also responsible for killing Krypto and stealing Supergirl's ship. They get right to him, man. They've been following his footsteps for the last few issues. Now they reach him. He uses magic, a Kryptonian weak spot, to banish them billions of miles away. We end up on this planet with a green sun, which is made out of kryptonite. Now, they tell this story within the story on how Superman was once trapped here, and then he was quickly saved by the Justice League. How long did he last? 45 minutes. How long do they need to wait until the sun goes down? About 10 hours. A lot of cockiness coming from Supergirl here, but I really liked it. I thought it was edgy and kind of, I don't know, it was kind of badass of her. And yeah, she kind of talks shit about Superman. He only made it 45 minutes. I'm here 10 hours. Having to fight these beasts and these creatures while she's, trying to weather out this storm. I don't know if this green sun planet was a real story that really took place or if it was something made up within this story. I don't know. Robbie, do you know?
I'm not familiar with the story that this is based on with the kryptonite sun or whatever, the green sun. I remember reading it being like, there are green suns? I guess it's a kryptonite sun. It sounds like a Silver Age idea, so I wouldn't be surprised if Tom King pulled that up. In fact, I hope he did, because that makes the idea of it a little bit more compelling. I like the story enough, right? And I really love the artwork. I love the way that the artwork is composed. I love the characterization of Supergirl. The only thing I'm not liking is it's really starting to drag me down, homie. Old girl's her narration. It's so, like, I get it. He's trying to make it sound like 1800s Western type stuff, but man, it was bogging me down so much that honestly, I quit reading the dialogue, the narrations, and just read the actual dialogue, and I love the flow of the book. It was way more exciting, way more dynamic, but it's a cool book. True Grit in Space with Supergirl. It's pretty decent. For my number 3, I'm going to Wasted Space, number 25. This is the final issue of Wasted Space, which, in my opinion, has been one of the best comic books I have ever read. It's Preacher in space. It's about a dude who gets called by the creator, by God, if you will, to lead the populace into a certain direction. That direction leads them into this, like, oppressive empirical force taking over the galaxy, right? So now the preacher, he just goes off the rail, goes off the grid, and he's just wasting his time wasting space. doing drugs, sleeping around, things like that. Then he meets a new batch of characters that bring him to a new calling where he wants to go to the creator, make him answer for everything that he's put us through. This is a 25-issue sci-fi epic that is not afraid to poke fun at all sides, not afraid to poke holes in so many different philosophies, and have one cohesive narrative message, which means all the negative shit in your mind, it doesn't matter. Put that aside. Find people that make you want to do something for other people. This was such an amazing book, a really grandiose finale, the finale that the story deserved. I'm going to be sad missing this book, but I love a story that has a very complete middle, beginning, and end. Maybe not in that order, but Wasted Space was definitely that. One of the best books I've ever read.
Yeah, Wasted Space is something I'm going to have to get caught up in a trade. The way you describe it, it sounds great. I haven't read even a panel of that series, so I'm interested to see it. I got to get a trade for sure. My number 2, I went with Dark Ages issue 3 by Tom Taylor, and I gave the spoiler in my new comic book day reviews because it's just like, how many times are we going to kill Johnny Storm? Human Torch has been killed multiple times throughout comics, but I really like this story of these factions. You got Apocalypse, who's got Magneto captured and trapped and being used as a human battery in this world where you cannot have any electricity or any power. That makes sense. He's got Reed Richards working for him, and I like how the good side, which has who? Black Panther, Invisible Woman, Johnny Storm, when they find out that Reed is still alive and Franklin may still be alive, there's so much hope inspired there. But Apocalypse sends a message back to them, man, using the Purple Man to get inside of Quicksilver to kill mad people on the good faction here. It's big, epic, dystopian, end-of-the-world stuff that Tom Taylor is known for doing, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm liking the book. I just don't think Tom Taylor's hitting as much of the emotional gut punches as he did in Deceased. That's the only thing. The story's an interesting concept. I love the usage of Apocalypse. I love how Quicksilver's like their sleeper agent. He comes in and just starts tearing ass. So it's got moments I really like, but just overall, I thought it was okay. I think it's decent. I'm glad you're really liking it. My number 2, Primordial number 3. Y'all, this was almost the pick of the week. This book is amazing. It blows me away. The amazing psychedelic artwork by Andrea Sorrentino, those pop-in colors by Dave Stewart, and a really interesting, compelling story. The space race went a little bit different. When Laika, the Russian-Soviet cosmonaut dog, went up into space, when Abel and Mrs. Baker, the American monkey and chimp, when they went up into space, they didn't have successful missions. They disappeared, and they told the populace that they all died. In fact, they came across this, other entity that seems to be evolving them. I love it. When Laika is talking to Abel and you, big change. Dude, I eat that stuff up. It really is cool. I love providing emotions to animals. And look at the work that Andrea Sorrentino is doing with the acting, the emoting of these animals. Sometimes you see people draw, comic book versions of dogs and monkeys and cats and horses or whatever, and it doesn't really have that unless it's a super cartoony type take. This is very realistic, but these characters are emoting. The overall story's coming more into focus. The human characters are having more of a role to do. Yo, there ain't nothing like this book. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey meets We 3, and I am loving it. Like a McRib at McDonald's. It's available now. You should check it out.
You gotta love Primordial. Before I jump into my number 1, guys, make sure to download and follow me on Whatnot. I've got my next live comic book auction this Wednesday, November 24th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, kicking off the Whatnot Wednesday, and I'm doing a huge sealed omnibus auction starting at $1, 1 minute timer. It's going to be epic. Make sure to set up your profile, set up all the payment info, the shipping info, so that you guys can get a steal on these great omnis. All right, guys, now my number 1, I alluded to it earlier, and if you watched my new comic book day reviews, you knew it was coming. A Nice House on the Lake, issue 6, James Tynion IV. The last issue before they go on a little bit of a hiatus, I absolutely loved it. We kind of get what Walter is. Kind of. He's kind of an extraterrestrial from the way he explained it. We understand kind of why he saved these people and why they're basically putting them on in a farm in a zoo so that this extraterrestrial race can study them. We get more background on Walter and his interaction one-on-one with characters that are in the house, including the one character who wasn't really part of the original team. He's already there helping him recruit people and get people on this island or this, lakeside house. Really interesting stuff here. Great storytelling. It feels like an indie book. It feels like something that would have been published by Image, but it's a DC Black Label book super intriguing and interesting. You guys definitely need to get caught up if you're not reading it. But Robbie, what do you think he is?
I think he's like an ultra-terrestrial. Like, not necessarily an alien, but like an extra-dimensional entity or something like that. Like on another plane of existence. That's what I think's going on there. And I think that's why we're seeing him like kind of shift shape and all that kind of stuff. For my number one, I'm going Radio Apocalypse, issue number 1. This is from Vault Comics, Ram V, Anand RK, Aditya Bidikar. Come on, Anisha on the coloring. This book was awesome. I really liked it. Anand RK doing a different style yet again, complex, layered, and dense. A little bit way outside of any typical house style, so it may not appeal to everybody's visual sensibilities, but I love this. This is a story about the end of the world. It's about this one collection of humanity out there left. There's only less than 100 people in this collective. People show up, people leave. There are these crazy beasts out there. And when they close the gates at night, if you're not in there, they don't let you in. And these monsters are going to come and kill you. But what's really exciting to me about this book is that Ron V is writing it to music, to very specific songs. He even asks you at the very beginning, he goes, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to tell you the best story I can, but I need you to do me one favor. Whenever I bring up a song, I want you to put it on. I want you to listen to that song while you read the book. I did that. That added so much more impact to this book. It blew me away. Ron V's one of my favorite writers. He's fantastic. When he works with Anand RK, like on Graffiti's Wall or on Blue and Green, it's always something innovative, always something compelling and interesting. I loved it. I love the human element. I love how he's able to tell us a very human story about love and loss set to the soundtrack of the end of the world. Doesn't that just sound poignant and profound? Maybe it's pretentious, but it's my kind of pretentious.
All right, guys, and that's the top 10 comics of the week. I hope this video edits together well and doesn't seem too weird. We kind of had to Frankenstein it. Robbie's audio sucked. We'll try to get it together for next week. Let us know what your favorite comics of this week were in the comments down below. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video, and then swing on over to Rockin Robbie's channel and subscribe over there. What do you guys even do over there?
Oh yeah, check us out, Pop Culture Philosophers, comic book reviews, movie reviews, commentary on pop culture, all that stuff and more. Y'all, we really appreciate it. Station.
All right, guys, we appreciate you watching. Don't go anywhere. Check out last week's top 10 comics of the week that we did, as well as my new comic book day reviews, and there's the subscribe for both channels. Stay minty fresh. Peace.